Morning, Joey. Well, morning for me. It's a little bit before 6 in the morning. So, today we're going to talk about Wild at Heart by Mr. John Eldridge. This is the second time that I've listened to this book, and I'm glad that I listened to it on Audible this time because for me it's a extremely boring read, as in my actual book copy of it. Um, as it'll become apparent as we're talking about the book. I'm not the biggest fan of this one, and part of the reason is because I find the writing extremely dull, but also because I feel like it doesn't fully encompass uh, the the different aspects of both a man and a woman. In which case, there's the possibility that I've just missed the point twice. And I'm, not going to claim that that's not the case. It's just that um, about the first half or so of this book is extremely repetitive with its wording, and I think that there are components that are just not mentioned or left out. And so I appreciate what it's doing, of course, but I do have some questions for and about the book that, you know, obviously I'd like to have answered uh, to better understand in case I am just, not fully informed and grasping of its concepts. But essentially, the base premise of Wild at Heart is talking about reclaiming the masculine soul, and one of the big ways that it puts this into scope is the three aspects of a man's heart, which is a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. And when he's talking about these things, they absolutely do feel like something that is quite important. These are definitely things that I think about sometimes in different contexts, or these are things that games when I was a kid would be based around, stuff like that. Um, the the interesting thing is that, at least in my opinion, I think that the sort of the wildness is a little bit different than what the book talks about. I think that actually men have a much higher propensity to be very stationary and immobile, because at least in my brain, men are more so like mountains, and the idea being that at least when it comes to how it is optimally, we're we're mentally stable, we're and I mean, that's not always the case for people, but perhaps you get what I'm saying. Um, and we're solid, we're stationary. If you have a family, you're the backbone for it. Things such as that. And the book portrays women primarily as I suppose being not that. Um, and I personally don't think this is really the case. I think that women have a very high uh, ability to create chaos, and I mean, don't get me wrong, men can too. But the thing is that generally speaking, even a good woman is not going to control herself or control her emotions, because that's exactly why I describe them as such, is because women are much more emotional creatures than men on average. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Um, but maybe the book is alluding to that and I just missed it, because that more so is what I think of, sort of that dynamic, and it feels like something that the book doesn't really touch on. But I do think that there is a still a very much an importance to to how the book frames masculinity. And what I've always found interesting is that there's so many places and people that will tell you what they think masculinity is, which I just find very interesting because I think that goes to show sort of our crumbling society, that there isn't a uniform answer. Everybody has their own answer on that. Like being being a stoic, good for your family, uh, doing right by your family, living an honest life, not letting the world beat you down. It's like you're not gonna get an answer like that from everybody. And I mean, obviously, you would throw a couple other components in there too, but you know, there are people that think that to be a man, you have to be accepting of transgender people. So obviously there's a huge miss just everywhere in today's time. Like, clearly the amount of damage that's been done by fathers leaving their house homes, their wives and kids, has done irreparable amounts of damage, at least to a lot of people as of this generation and the prior ones. So I find that interesting. But to put it simply, I do think that it is important that we sort of stop going in the direction of men being so soft, which is what I think the book is really trying to get at, is that, uh, well, it's not really that, but perhaps you'll see where I'm coming from. Essentially, we do, a lot of us live a conformist life working in an office or something like that. Um, Technically, I work a conformist life right now because I just work at a battery store. Like, I'm not, chasing my own dreams with any amount of priority. So that's definitely something that I need to be able to relinquish myself from. And I've thought about it, and what really did it for me, and this is what the next review will be, is The Strangest Secret in the World. He makes a passing comment about how, um, the opposite of courage is conformity. And that's something that this book spends a lot of time talking about, essentially, and fleshing out. And so I know on the phone a couple weeks ago I said something on the lines of, I'm going to see if they have an opportunity for me at Battery Source, given enough time. Like, things are really crazy at work right now. If I were to abandon my crew, I think I'd be doing a very large disservice to them, because Nick is out with surgery and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But once it's on the other side of that and things have a moment to calm down, I think I am just going to make my intentions known that I don't intend on being with Battery Source anymore, because I think that, um, I have I have the makings to be able to do almost whatever I want if I set my mind to it. And I can tell you one thing: I really don't like working on golf carts and selling people batteries. So, despite my grievances with this, or not so much grievances, but questions that I have still after having read this book, I do think that it has spurred me to realizing, no, that's not something I want to do. Because even if I were to make substantially more money from having been a manager for a Battery Source store, I know I would not be enjoying it. Nick which Nick is my manager, Nick takes care of a lot of stressful situations for us. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to be stressed out, because, like, it's not like I'm adverse to being stressed out about something, but I sure as heck wouldn't want it to be arguing with customers over golf carts and batteries, I can't tell you how much I don't care about those things, right? There are other things that I care about more, or I need to experiment with to see if I care more about, right? So, and I mean, I mean, I'm nowhere near as versed as someone that is a higher up professional, but there's still quite a lot of information that I know about batteries now. And if I were to move on to a different job, I would have quite a lot of the information I would need to know in terms of being able to answer something or find the answers that I'm looking for. So, all of that rambling, I do apologize to say that this book has been making me realize that I'm living a conformist lifestyle, um, and it's made me realize that sticking with battery source is not the right call. Not only am I not going to make very good money regardless of what I do, unless I were to put 110% in, which I just don't want to. I don't care about this job, um, or I need to move on to greener pastures. Um, and I think doing my own thing, which I know I've been talking about that for absolute ever. So my words are about as worth anything as grains of sand. But I'm still trying to fix the pressure washer. Um, the problem I've been having is that it keeps on requiring stuff I don't have, and as I make progress on it, I realize that there's another piece I don't have, and so it's been a process trying to just get what I need. Um, but uh, yeah, I do apologize. I haven't really mentioned the contents of the book all that much. Um, I in the audible variation, something that he talks about in a post reading Q&A is, because this is like a 20 years later sort of deal. Um, the guy asks him about, what do you mean by that women want to be rescued? Um, and of course, a question like this was going to come up because we live in today's time where people have to try and find things to call you sexist or racist about. Um, and this is true. He says it's not really that, it's not that women can't do things on their own or fight for themselves. It's that they want to know that they are desired and that somebody will help them, someone will rescue them. And that in the context of modern day life is not something that is just going to happen all that frequently in terms of quite literally needing to rescue somebody. And that's kind of the interesting thing about modern day life. I feel like the government does a lot of the things that would be up to the man to be able to do to fill the shoes of, and that's just not the case anymore. Things have just been continuously outsourced to the state and the government, and so that's great. Um, but yeah, I really do want to talk over the phone about this book. Like I said, there's many things that I perhaps just didn't understand as well as I perhaps could have. Um, I find it interesting how critical of the churches he is, because he's very clearly a devout Christian. And so I understand that he's doing it not out of some sort of like uh, hatred or anything like that, nothing like that, but more so like a disappointment that things are the way they are, because he believes that things need to be different. And I can't really comment on that. I've not been to church in a very, very long time, but I'm inclined to believe what he's saying is true. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to talk about this over the phone. Next one is going to be The Strangest Secret, which I've listened to twice as of this point, and definitely will be more times. Uh, I was actually about to fire it up this morning, and then I thought, hang on, let me talk about this book. And yeah, we'll see where I go after that. In terms of ones that I've never read before, there's only a small handful on the list still, and then there's a couple that I'm going to need to reread or re-listen to for the reviews, and then once we have those complete, we'll just be able to do these free willy nilly. So I hope that you've enjoyed my ramblings, and can't wait to talk to you about these over the phone. Thank you.